Okay, today I want to deal with the OB. I want to deal with why the OB exists and the purpose behind it. So, first, I want to start here with the scripture. And it's coming out of Deuteronomy 31 and starting at verse 28. It says, "Assemble before me all the elders of your tribes and all your officials, so that I can speak these words in their hearing and call the heavens and the earth to testify against them. For I know that after my death you are sure to become utterly corrupt and to turn from the way I have commanded you. In days to come, disaster will fall on you because you will do evil in the sight of the Lord and arouse his anger by what your hands have made." The first thing I want to point out about the OB, it's not about the structure itself. It's about the gathering. It's about the gathering of people. The structure is just a place for people to gather. And, in many places in the scriptures, you will see where people were gathered together for a meeting. There were times when people had to gather for sacrifice, offerings. And the thing you have to ask yourself, there are daily sacrifices, there are offerings and things that are given whenever someone, for different things that may happen in your particular location. So before me just kind of clear some things up, because I know that one of the things that has really confused people is that they have thought that all sacrifices and offerings happened at the temple. Here's the reason why that's not the case. There were things that were done daily. There were issues that came up daily where there had to be sacrifices and offerings made. Many of the different clans, tribes, and people lived too far away from the temple to be traveling on a daily basis. That's the reason why that trip was only made 3 times a year. Technically twice, but 3 times a year. Everything else was done in their particular locations. So this was not something where people were constantly, every day, traveling miles, packing up everything and going for these long rides just to go back. You have to remember, people had they had farms, they had cattle, they had things they had to tend to. So you couldn't just be traveling, it wasn't something like today where you have cars and you just jump in and you're there in 30 minutes. It didn't work that way. Many times the travel would take so long, sometimes it took days to get from one location to another. So it wasn't that easy. So there were offerings, sacrifices, and things that took place in each locale. Now, when you talk about the gathering, when you talk about the OB, now I'm going to first deal with it on a larger scale, on a more regional or community scale. And so when you having a meeting or you bringing people together for the purpose of an offering or for prayer, if it's a large gathering, there has to be somewhere to meet. Now, like I said before, it's about the meeting, not necessarily the place. The place was established, or a covering was established as a necessity. When you have people out in the sun and when you have people out in all kinds of weather, whatever, you need a place to gather. The focus was not the structure. The focus was the people, the gathering of people. So when you start looking at Omenana, if you go back and you look at history, you will see that whenever there were large gatherings, whenever there was always people gathered together at a particular structure, at the OB, where people met. The meetings, whether it were just meetings about the community, whether it was something that had happened and there was it needed to be judged, the situation had to be judged, or if there were a variety of reasons to come, or if it could have been just for an offering or peace offerings or what have you, that were just necessary. So these are the things that are the reasons why people gather together in the OB. So this is the function and the reason for the larger OB. And we can see that also in Judaism, that you had people that idea, that understanding transpired or transferred even over into Judaism, because you can see that they founded the synagogue structure. And with the synagogue structure, or should I say the place where, because even before, the whole idea of I think synagogue comes from a German word, but when you go back to the original structure of the synagogue, or the meeting place, that idea was transferred even to them. So this is not I'm not an advocate of Judaism at all, just like I'm not an advocate of Christianity. But I'm just saying that the structure transferred. So the other part that I would like to say is that when you start talking about the family, why do we need one as individual families? Well, you have to go back to that time and the way things were set up and the way things were functioning at that time. During that particular time, which you had people that had more than one wife. They had large families, compounds full of people. So when it's time to have a meeting, or if you want to offer, or if you want to pray on behalf of your family, where are they going to meet? In your particular, in your home, in one of the wives' home. Where's the common structure, the common place where everybody can come together and meet? So what you have a place where people were allowed to come together, gather, and meet. So that is why you have one individual home, because if there's a meeting, families were large. We're not talking about today where people got 2 or 3 children and one wife and that's the whole family. We're talking about large families. So if you're gathering, where's your local place? If you have guests, where do your guests gather? So this is the purpose of the local OB, and also the purpose of the larger, or the more community, the one for the larger part of the family and the community. So you need both. And unlike now, where you see it in Judaism, where they've kind of turned it more into a teaching type of a facility for the rest day, that was not the original function. The original function, when you look back at when it was time for the rest to take place, people came. Of course, there was prayer, there was sacrifices that were offered, and there was libation poured for prayers, and then people came together, talked, reasoned, drank a little bit, enjoyed themselves for the rest of the day. Children playing, everybody just kind of coming together and just hanging out, enjoying the day, because they understood the commands, they understood how they should live. It was part of their everyday life. The reason why you see a restructuring now of how that looks is because people have gotten disconnected and disassociated from the original practice. So my prayer and my desire is that we'll get back there, because the sooner we get back to what it originally was, the sooner we can get back to when you see on the Sabbath, you got people that hate to go because they feel like it's long drawn out, people going through these long drawn out prayers, which a lot of that comes from Judaism and different things. A lot of things have influenced the traditional, original function of the OB. But at some point, there should be a time for prayer. And initially, even in Judaism, it was understood it was a place to go pray. So people would pray, but after the prayers, you just kind of go on and enjoy the day. But we've kind of gotten away from that. We've turned into a more religious type of thing. And we really need to get back to the original function so that we can return fully to what Omenana was originally created and how things were originally supposed to be. We want to get back. We don't want to have a lot of revisions and things. We want to get back to the core of what it was. So this is the purpose, the function of the OB, why they're necessary. And if you don't have one, if you have an opportunity, you need to set up a place for meeting. And if you have to start in your home or wherever, you want to make sure you have a place where you can meet, where you can pray, a common place where people can come together and gather. That's what I have to say about the OB, and I guess I'm out.